First session of the day, we're looking at where telcos are deploying AI in their networks, where they want to deploy AI in their networks in the near future, and what are some of the promising use cases that we can talk about, and best practice examples, all those good things. So before we're going to start each session with some short presentations, and then it's Q&A. And again, we encourage all of you to quiz our guests. But before we do that, I want to introduce our guests. So I'm going to get our guests to introduce themselves briefly, starting on our far right with Prashant.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Prashant Agarwal from Intel. Maybe I should come a little bit closer.
That's it.
I am Business Development Manager for vRAN, covering Europe, Middle East, and Africa.
Hi everyone, Andrew Burrell from Nokia. I take care of portfolio marketing for one of Nokia's business groups called Cloud and Network Services. Nice to see you all.
Hello, my name is Ray Dolan. I'm the CEO of Cohere Technologies.
Hello, good morning everyone. Chetan, Narang from Colt Technology Services. I manage innovation at Colt.
Great. Well, good to see you all. Thanks so much for joining us. And good practice on the microphones. You can see how close you've got to get. Right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask our guests to come and give a little presentation. And Prashant, I'm going to start with you. So if you'd like to make your way to this lectern, we'll swap over.
Okay, good morning, everyone, again. So, as I told, I'm Prashant Agarwal, so I've done introduction already. It's good to see everybody again here. I was expecting maybe a little bit more audience, but yeah, maybe people will join later on. So, okay, so today we will be covering the AI use cases in telecommunication. So as we know that telecom companies have started use AI in various domains. And I have listed some of the use cases, but I'm not planning to go through all of them because it might take a little more than 5 minutes. But I would like to highlight a couple of key use cases and what we have done in terms of the practical examples, because I think that will provide some more substance. So if you see regarding the energy efficiency, as we all know that telecom companies are one of the biggest consumption of the energy, because all their data centers, cell sites, this requires a lot of power to keep them running. And to be honest, what we have seen in their annual energy bill can run in hundreds of millions of dollars, if not the billions. And with all the energy pricing going up, you never know, it might touch $1 billion around also sometime. So what we think the AI is the good opportunity here to use the AI to provide energy efficiency, reduce the cost, and also helping them in their reducing carbon footprint. So for example, we did a testing and some demo by using the CPU power management with AI with one of the leading tier 1 operator in North America. And results were really great, to be honest. By using the AI with CPU power management, we managed to show 16% improvement on server basis. So if you think in terms of the dollar value, how does it translate? So let's see if you have like 100,000 virtual DUs in your installed base. It turns out around $4.5 million per year, which is a big money. And this energy use case, what we think it's already there, we have tested, and we are working with other operators also, some of them, they're in different phases. And we think it's like a low-hanging fruit, which can be easily deployed, and we have all the techniques available to deploy them. So that was one of the key use case I was planning to cover. And then there are a few others like network planning, network management. I'm sure that my fellow panels also will go through them. So just to highlight maybe one other, the key one, which I really love here, is around the network automation. And we all know that network automation is nothing new. Many companies already using AI in one form or another for the network automation. But what's the key now? With the changes in the network, Like if we are bringing the disaggregated network, we are opening the interfaces like OpenRAN and vRAN, which is providing it's becoming more important to provide the network automation. Because now you have the all open interfaces, bringing the cloudification and virtualization. And there AI is going to play a big role. So everybody is looking for the totally autonomous networks, and AI can play a big role to automate all the networks. And of course, it will require a lot of compute powers in terms of the hardware, but that's what we are hoping for. So by using these new technologies and the capacities in the hardware, we should be able to see a little bit more on the automation side. Okay, of course, everybody is asking nowadays that, okay, AI can be used for optimization, cost saving, but can we generate some more revenue? That's, to be honest, everybody kind of struggling to find the use cases. How can we use AI to generate more revenue? So we think there are some use cases which we are talking, and some of our partners are working in terms of, for example, like targeted marketing, and which can be used based on the behavior of users. What can we offer them? So these are also under development. So, but there's a lot of work going on in terms of the revenue generation. Now, I'm sure that in the telecommunication side, we can use AI in various of these use cases to provide the optimized intelligent networks and increase the operational effectiveness. And the security also, please don't forget security also one of the key things. Okay. Now let me move on to my favorite topic, to be honest. It's here we want to talk about the role of silicon in network AI. So we get these questions, okay, where are we in terms of silicon? Are we ready? Are we ready to deploy these AI use cases? So yeah, I mean, I will go straight forward. We are ready. We have all the kit available in terms of silicon to start implementing AI in networks. You don't need to go and buy some new hardware and wait for anything new. At least for network, we have already all the kits available. Let me also demystify something. I think everybody think that like we talk GPU is required for the AI processing. But not all the AI workloads are same. They all have different requirements. So it's not like we have to require GPU for all the AI workloads. For example, if you think in telco world, especially in the radio access network, the processing, including AI or ML baseline also, most of the time those will be running on the network edge. Now, of course, GPUs are great. They are good for the processing because they're parallel processing for the heavy loads. But same time, there is the high energy consumption and complexity kind of limit their use for the edge side. So what we like to say, if you see that most of the RAN use cases we think will be using like AI inferencing. Again, AI inferencing, it's a very small workload compared to like LLMs and Gen AI. So I think we need to really understand what's required, and we can easily implement those AI inferencing on the CPUs or the Xeon, which we already have on the edge, for example. So let's think about the specific AI use cases for RAN. We need to go through what is required, and based on that, we need to really understand, because of course, there is a cost for AI also. You run the AI, there is a cost. You need to worry about TCOs. And what we have seen, network operators and all the communication companies, they already have installed base of a lot of this Colt server. They are already in their network. And they all have this already inbuilt accelerator, which can be done the inferencing AI already. So my comment will be, rather than waiting for something new, looking for the big investment, start using what you already have and start putting those AI use cases. Sorry, I think I ran over a little bit.
Yeah, Prashant, thank you very much indeed. Appreciate that. That's great. I've got that one off. Lesson for everyone there: don't have two microphones open close together like that. Thank you very much. Great. Thanks, Prashant. we'll develop those themes during our discussion, no doubt. And Andrew, I'd like to invite you up as well for yours, and I'll do a little manoeuvre. So I can squeeze behind you. There's not a lot of space here, isn't there?
We're all friends,
There
aren't
you
we?
go.
Thank you. Well, Prashant, you did the hard bit there, starting us off. This is the easy part. So I'd like to talk about AI in the context of autonomous networks, which I think is really interesting. So you might know, TM Forum, they've already defined a framework for autonomous networks, different levels of maturity, starting from level 0, which is 100% manual operations, all the way across to level 5. This is the holy grail of all singing, all dancing, fully autonomous operations. And if we get to the promised land, if we get to network nirvana, level 5, we're going to get these benefits of zero wait, zero touch, zero trouble services that are going to benefit our customers. They're going to benefit ourselves as well in terms of cost savings. And you can see here as well a projection from Nokia that if you get to level 5, it could save up to $800 million per year. And that's mainly cost saving, but a little bit of revenue uplift as well. There's a problem. I think you know what the problem is. Where are we today on this journey? Unfortunately, we're kind of stuck in the middle as an industry, somewhere around about level 2. Depends who you talk to, they'll give you different views. Some optimistic claims and visions of getting to level 4, level 5. But right now, we're stuck in the middle. Why is that? There's lots of reasons, lots of very good reasons. I think AI and the barriers that we have to implementing AI are quite fundamental to that. And you see those on the right-hand side. And I won't go through these, but in essence, it's the challenge of scaling AI. And we get stuck very often in this purgatory, POC purgatory, where we go round and round and round in a loop. And actually taking an AI use case and putting it into production is quite difficult. A lot of it's down to data, right? That's the basic fundamental challenge that we've been talking about for many, many years. And we still haven't fixed it. We've got siloed data and data in different formats. And unless we can get good quality data, it's a waste of time. We've got a skills shortage. And then to exacerbate that, we're taking really, really high-paid data scientists and making them spend lots and lots of time doing manual, repetitive tasks to clean the data, to wrangle the data, to prepare the data. So that's the problem statement. I don't think there's anything particularly new or original here. Nokia's solution then, we've got a framework which we call Sense, Think and Act, and I'll talk you through that very quickly. So starting at the bottom layer, the sense layer, it's about trying to build up a picture of what's going on in the network, giving you observability across the network. This needs to be multi-domain, so across access, core, transport domains. Of course, it needs to be multi-vendor. And what we want to do is get as much data as possible, normalize or standardize that data because we've got different formats of data, and then correlate it to see what insights we can derive. Data governance, pretty important. We need to know where the data's coming from, who's using it, what they're using it for to make sure we're compliant. So that's the sense layer. Above that, then, we're bringing in traditional machine learning, also generative AI, but let's not neglect machine learning. I mean, most of the data we've got is structured. We've got some stuff that's been working for a while. Let's not throw that out. We have something called AVA Data Suite, and what that does essentially is it allows you to take raw data, expose that through APIs as data products, and put that into a catalog. And the benefit there is that your data scientists, instead of spending months and months finding out where the data is, finding out if it's the right quality, before they can build their AI use cases, it's a catalog. They can just choose from a ready source of data products. They can also combine those as well. If you think about something like video or gaming, if you want to understand the experience for your end customer, it has to be end-to-end. So you could take a data product from the radio access network, combine that together with core and transport to get a proper end-to-end view. And that would be user plane and control plane as well. We want to automate this process, like we said, of managing models through their life cycle. So we've got some tools to do that as well. Then at the last point, if we go up to the act layer, of course, we need to act on these insights. We need to be able to do that quickly. And we need to be able to do it at scale. So that's closed loop automation and automation frameworks to do that. Then lastly, if we look at the use cases, I mean, any number of use cases across the whole of the network, across the whole of the life cycle, from network planning, troubleshooting, optimization, service orchestration, slice management, service assurance. But I've got 3 to talk about here. The first one, Prashant already covered, actually, so I'll probably skip over that fairly quickly. This is a public case with Telefonica Germany, using our AVA energy efficiency solution to reduce energy consumption in the RAN, switching off parts of the network when they're not needed, and most importantly, making sure that you don't impact the customer experience at all. So that's the first one. Second one, there's a theme here, like we don't seem to be able to publicly name US customers. This is a very, very big tier 1 CSP, and it really relates a lot to the sense layer. So what we've done for them is stitch together lots of different data sources across their network, 3 different radio vendors, so a lot of work to standardize the data models there. And they're then able to use their own machine learning AI use cases to optimize the performance of the network and to troubleshoot the network. And to give you an indication of the scale, it's not quite there yet, but next year we expect it to get to 270,000 records per second. So these are things like 3GPP call traces, a lot of really rich information that you can get there about device locations, quality indicators, handovers, etc. You can imagine how that could be used for planning, optimization, troubleshooting. And then lastly, I can see somebody's looking at their watch, Claro, Colombia. So we talk traditionally about, network optimization, O&M, etc. I think security is really, really important. And the reality is, the bad guys, bad girls, they're already using AI. They've been using it for some time. They're using it to, create malware, to reverse engineer things. So it's almost essential. I mean, it's imperative to use AI. With Claro Colombia, this is for their 5G network, so around about 35 million subscribers. And we're using both machine learning and generative AI there. So the machine learning is being used for things like anomaly detection, which it's pretty good at. So spotting malware, spotting an intrusion into the network, abnormal behavior. So if one of their engineers is doing something that he or she shouldn't be doing, you can pick up on that as a abnormality. Also using machine learning to calculate a dynamic threat score. So for each network function, you have a near real-time indicator of the potential risk or vulnerability of that network function. And then the Gen AI part comes in. We work together with Microsoft there, taking one of their large language models and then training it on some telco-specific data. So things like 3GPP architectures, security frameworks, regulatory frameworks, and so on. And that can be used by their security analysts to understand what's going on, to delve into some of these complexities, to get an explanation about what the threat is, and also to get recommendations. And all of that means they can do that much quicker, because actually, not just data scientists, but also cybersecurity professionals, they're also in really short supply. So that's it. I mean, like I said, this is our approach, trying to deal with that really hard problem of data and managing data quality. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay. Thanks so much, Andrew. Ray, are you coming to the lectern, or are you sitting there?
If it's all right, I'll
You can sit right there. Please, carry on.
Don't have any slides, and I'll probably keep my introductory comments fairly brief. Again, Ray Dolan, CEO of Cohere Technologies. And when I think of applications for AI in the wireless network, I focus much more on the I than the A. And what I mean by that is it's really about using intelligence to make the network perform better. Whether it's artificial or not, you can debate that. We don't get hung up on training neural networks. We don't look at this from a perspective of large language models. We just think if you can make the network better, that's the use case in and of itself, right? So, and the good news is we've found that niche, at least our first pass, is there's a massive problem in congestion in all of the low-band FTD networks. We've created a sensing, estimation, and prediction engine, which we call our USM, a Universal Spectrum Multiplier. There's been some press on that, including some testimonials from operators that they've generated 50% spectral improvement in their network. If you consider that there is $1 trillion of spectrum in the world in use today, and that's $1 trillion if marked to today's average of the, say, 5 most recent big auctions, that's a pretty big impact that you're making on a network just on the first pass. We had some success doing that, building off of an Intel FlexRAN architecture and a Dell server, so we're already using what's there. We built that with a Capgemini stack, and then we got enough attention where the operators are now pushing their large vendors to integrate. You look at AI the same way I look at Open RAN. Is Open RAN just opening the network, or is it Open RAN Working Group 2, E2SM interface and all that? What's a RIC, what's not a RIC? I'm sure, Ray, you'll talk a little bit about the news that's out there. Like, we don't get caught up in whether you want to use a RIC or not. We're just saying if you want to be more intelligent, we took a radar principle, which has been used in military and commercial radars for many, many decades. We use it to listen to things that already exist in the network, like uplink reference symbols. We sense the geometry of the channel in the uplink, and we infer the downlink from the uplink. And so if you just extend the word infer to inference, you're an AI, right? But it's not a large language model and it's not a neural network. It's just an inference that happens to make the network much more intelligent. And so now the operators have pushed us to integrate our USM solution, which we had built in an X app with VMware and Juniper, and all of that's evolving into whatever they end up doing in their newly acquired forms. But we also run that native, and we are integrating it right now with several large OEMs and seeing results that are incredibly compelling, right? Significant spectral efficiency deployed against the problem today of congestion in low band, mid band, FTD networks. Same handset, same radio, same antenna, everything as is, standards based, standards compliant, right? And it's universal because it works for both 4G and 5G. In fact, it works for 3G and Wi-Fi and everything else, right? Not far from here, there's a St. Paul's Cathedral. If you go over there and you do the Whisper Gallery, you know that there's a geometry to any architecture like that that creates a coherent communication between two specific points in space. The trick of a cellular network is to allow those points in space to move around and move coherency, not force people to get into the cone of silence or where have you, okay? And by using this solution, we're creating that coherence, which is the terminology we use for Cohere networks, and it's making an impact today. So that's how we think about AI, and we're happy to take questions, mix it up a little bit during the panel discussion. Hope that was within 5 minutes.
Spot on. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much, Ray. Very enlightening as well. Thank you, Ray. Chetan, do you want to go to lectern or to speak from here?
Yeah, I can speak from here.
Great.
Hi. Yeah. So I think, thanks. I think everyone has set the stage out there. So I just want to put a flavor around what use cases we are looking from a service provider perspective. So I think the intent of AI is mainly to mimic the human intelligence. And if we think from a human intelligence perspective broadly, if I have to say, we are looking into 3 aspects. One is more towards, generating content. That's the creativity side of it. And that's where, Gen AI kind of implementation comes from an AI perspective. The other one is more towards analytics, getting an analytics in terms of finding patterns, doing a kind of an analysis as like a specifics to a specific situation, specific circumstance, doing analysis out there. And the third one is more towards, how do you have decision-making coming in? And this is basically, it's not only about supporting decision-making, but it's all about how can efficiently you can make a best decision. So this is more going towards the autonomous side of it. Now, if you think from a perspective of these 3 use cases, I think you can apply into the telco, into various aspects. I think the Gen AI kind of an aspect can be applied in terms of operational tasks, ranging from design, deploy, configure, manage, which can help you as a kind of a co-pilot kind of capabilities. When it comes in terms of analysis, and I think this is already evolved, and it falls under the concept of classic AI, pretty much getting into predictive AI. We have use cases where we have successes in terms of capacity planning, preventive maintenance, anomaly detection out there. And then lastly, I think this is where I think the leap is needed from the telco perspective. I think where we are also working at Colt, it's more towards building autonomous networks. Now, I think our core network already has got the intelligence pretty much. I think if we have referring to the TM Forum autonomous network, I think we are already at a layer L4 because it's conditionally autonomous. It's an infrastructure at the end of the day, so you still will need someone to go there to do a fix. But in terms of path failover, in terms of resiliency, it's already there in the network out there. But the leap is needed more towards the autonomous aspect, and the autonomous aspect will come mainly towards building networks more towards the aspect of customer services, and this is where an intent-based networking comes up, and we're working exclusively on building that intent-based networking use cases. And I think just to touch on that intent-based networking, the idea over here is to address to the customer's intent, and that intent can be basically performance, SLA, latency, or a green network from a sustainability perspective. And the idea is to use that intent within autonomous decision making using AI ML models to achieve that intent in a constant way with a changing underlying infrastructure. That's me. Thanks.
Chetan, thank you. Thanks very much, everyone. Thanks for those opening comments. Let's get back over here. Thank you very much. Thanks for the opening comments. Well, we've turn it back on. Thanks very much. We've heard from our panelists with some opening comments there. We've got a lot to talk about, but I would like to open it up to the audience first. Or any questions on anything at all we have just heard from our four guests. Now is your chance. So, who's got a question first of all? Let's go to you, Robert, in the second row. You press the button on the mic. There you go.
Excellent, we're there. One of the things that is always interesting in discussions about AI is whether this is kind of from the technology out or the business in. And just be good to get a sort of follow-through perspective on issue whether what you see happening with telcos is these are research projects, thinking about we might do this in 3 years' time, or whether it's like we have a serious problem today, and looking at how they're solving the problem today and what they need to do. We see, through our work, we see right across the spectrum, but it's surprisingly often very sort of forward tilted. And when you ask people to connect the top 5 issues that they have as a business today with the use of AI, it sometimes goes a little quiet. So just interested in your perspectives on connecting those issues, business issues, with the use of AI.
Yeah, great question. Thanks so much. Who wants to take that one first? Who can take that one first? Andrew?
I'll give a really short answer. I mean, it has to be business focused. You can get really excited about the technology and follow yourself down a silo there, right? I mean, you need to justify the investment, and typically it comes back to, I'm afraid, cost savings very often, or some other metric. So no, it really needs to be business focused. I don't know who would like to add to that.
I think I just want to say, most of the cases are operational efficiencies, or cost efficiencies out there. But I think there's also an opportunity for a revenue generation perspective. So, like you're talking about intent-based networking, this from a perspective of a green network, you can connect back to sustainability. Customers need ESG kind of criteria, and they would like to have this kind of a green network aspect. And this is where it's the ability to generate revenue from a telco perspective.
Thanks, Chetan.
Just to add, I totally agree that it has to be the benefit in terms of the business cases for the operators. And to be honest, as you see, one of the example which I mentioned about energy efficiency. So recently, with all the geopolitical changes, the cost of energy is going through the roof, and the bills keep on increasing. So now we are saying we are here now. We can use AI to reduce those energy costs, and that's one of the key use case we are seeing. So I totally agree. There is a cost for AI also. Please don't take it wrong. It's not for free. For the AI, there is a cost. There is a TCO analysis has to be done. So the key thing is what is available now. How can we implement some use cases to save money or to generate money? I mean, saving money is also equivalent to generating money, to be honest.
Great. Thanks, Prashant. Ray, do you have any comments?
I think I
Yep, great, fine. Just like to say, follow up on that last point. Early next year, our first summit back in the new year is going to be on the Green Network again, and we do have a session, and we're going to really focus deeply on that particular subject. Quick plug from me. Thank you. There's another question at the back, and I'll come over to you, Dean. Andrew.
Hi, Andrew Coward at IBM. So we heard from Prashant that the chipsets are all ready to go. We heard from Andrew that it's taking 6 to 9 months to get value. How, as an industry, do we accelerate things? Like, what's holding us back? Question for the panel.
$1 million question. Who wants to take that one first? Ray?
Yeah, I stress the need to open the architecture to allow innovation to be inserted. And I use the term open small letters because Open RAN has got its pros and cons in a lot of people's minds, but prove that what you can do from an innovation has value to operators. They will make their vendors open their architectures, and it'll happen very quickly. We are right now integrating with a number of vendors a piece of software that's going to have a profound effect on most of the operators' networks. So I think the openness is probably the most important thing.
Thanks, Ray.
Thanks, Ray. So I won't repeat the whole story about data and how we need to fix that fundamental issue. I think it's true, but to add something new, I mean, probably just as hard as data is culture. I think our culture is a little bit against sometimes experimentation. It's a little bit against failure. There's good reasons for that. I mean, this is important stuff, but actually that's part of the problem, that we get stuck in this POC purgatory, that it's like you need to prove that the AI is working. And then once you've proved it, you need to prove it again and again and again and again. At some point, we have to accept that the technology is pretty good, the results are real, and we have to go ahead with it. So that's more of a cultural aspect, I would say.
Just to add on that, as Ray also mentioned, like Open RAN, Virtual RAN. So we have the technology ready, we have the chipsets ready, but it is like a change in culture and how you implement this. So the aspects of deploying virtual RAN and AI, these things, it's not only your solution ready, but you have to have integration. So that's also one of the key aspects. So we are doing all these POCs. Some companies take a little more time, some are a little bit faster. So I will again say that in terms of implementing AI use cases, what you need to see, what is the requirements? What are the processing requirements? Do you need anything new? Or can you do with the hardware which you already have? Is it like AI inferencing, or is it like LLMs? Why? And most of the time in the RAN use cases, radio access network, you will find you can use the AI inferencing, and you already have all the CPUs and all the Xeon servers which have inbuilt AI acceleration. So that will be my key, just to understand what is required, not go through that, okay, we need the high processing. No, not all AI use cases are same. They all not require the LLMs.
Just to add to that, I think I agree with my fellow panelists. I think it's more on the trust side of the technology. The technology is really proving, and that's why you get into the prototype loop over there. But it's also about the enterprise readiness out there. So we ourselves at Colt are on a journey right now, defining the AI governance structure. There are, you need to work as per regulations, compliances. There are risks associated to the business, because if you think from an AI perspective, it touches people, process, and technology out there. So a bit of framework and a governance is needed. I think building a principal framework of responsible AI is needed. And then I think then it comes towards the implementation aspects of quality of the data, and then trust of the technology, and then proving it really runs. So it's a facade of things, like though we can say it runs well, but I think you still have to make it consumable within an organization perspective.
Thanks, everyone. I mean, it's a good question, and there's a lot of challenges we've heard of, but how optimistic are we? Are we on the positive side of the graph here, or on the negative side? What's our level of optimism that we actually overcome these challenges?
I think we are positive with it. I think AI has a lot to add value to it. And we see it's more towards from a perspective of driving efficiency, not only for the business, but also to pass on to the customer perspective. So yeah, we are optimistic, and we are, at Colt, we are actively working, in terms of seeing how we can embrace this change out there.
Thanks. We need to scale. We've heard this question. We need to scale, but there's delays, there's timelines here. They're a little bit frightening. What do other panelists think? Ray, how optimistic are you?
Oh, I was born optimistic. I remain optimistic. I'm not so sure I'm as optimistic about AI in the construct of large language models and all of that buzz, right? I just think it's important that you know what problem you're solving, and if the problem is big enough, the industry will pull it through. And if you're trying to solve a problem that the customer doesn't think is a problem, you're going to be in POC hell. But from our perspective, we've seen in our USM significant results. There's a major pain point in congestion. The problem was it was too hard to consume because they've got hundreds of billions of dollars of assets out there across the globe, and no one wants to do a rip and replace on a brownfield. So the trick is getting inserted into a brownfield, and that's where openness comes in. So we have a unique perspective on it because we have a specific product that I consider to be intelligent, and it uses the data that's already part of the standard, and it draws inferences from those data. So like it's part of an AI mindset, but it's not like AI searching for a solution. So I don't personally have as much an opinion on AI in that sense as much as I do on helping telcos solve a multi-$100 billion problem right now and ringing a register. And that's what our focus is.
Great. Thanks, Ray. Andy next, but perhaps, or Prashant, let's go to you next. I mean, we're talking AI deployment scenarios here. Just how optimistic are you that we will actually achieve our objectives?
To be honest, I'm like 150% optimistic.
Wow.
I think
That's high.
there are few changes. If you see that now with the way we see, because of the change in the network, now with the disaggregation in the virtual and open RAN coming, we're already moving towards the cloudification, and that it makes much easier for the AI to be implemented. But I will caution again, I just mentioned that we need to really understand what benefit we can bring. Pick some use cases which can provide the good example, and maybe if not generating new revenues, at least cost saving. So if we can find out some use cases which can be easily implemented without waiting for the next big thing, then I think we have good chances. We are working very closely with many tier 1 operators. For example, energy efficiency. There are use cases like network slicing, spectrum efficiencies. Those are the real good examples, and these operators are really interested in them.
Great. And Andy, you showed us a graph there that was a little bit pessimistic with your network.
Well, I was just trying to calculate where I was on that. So I think I'm at level 3.5, not quite 150%. So you can be pessimistic or optimistic. I mean, if you look at the history, our history isn't particularly good. But then if you look at some of the results that were shared, I think there is reason to be optimistic. So I think we just need to acknowledge that it will take a little bit of time and it is a stepwise journey. So maybe rather than focusing on level 5, we should focus on getting to level 3, level 3.5, level 4, and take it stepwise. And it's going to take us a few years. But yeah, I am optimistic.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Dean, I promise to come to you. Next question, please.
Hi there. Dean Bubley from Disruptive Analysis. Question probably mostly at Andrew, but also the others on the panel as well. The use cases I'm hearing about here seem to be optimized for vertically integrated telcos rather than those where there's a wholesale versus retail split, whether it's sort of operator and MVNO, whether it's open access fiber and retail ISP, because it's much harder to join the data from the two sides. Does this favor vertical integration, and are we going to end up with sort of structural separation rules for data and from regulators? I mean, where does this land?
Wow. I don't think I have an answer for that, to be perfectly honest. I think I need a bit more time to think about that and probably come back with something which is coherent. I don't know if it reflects the structure of the industry or whether it's just, those are the ones that we have the initial progress with and the customers that are willing to talk about it. I think there's something there for sure, but I think I need a bit more time to process that one. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Chetan, can I ask you, are you seeing any differences in use cases for your model at Colt against what we're seeing elsewhere in the industry, perhaps? Or is there anything obvious that you can maybe share?
I think going back to the vertical, I think I can try to do it out there. I think that there is difference out there. If you think from a wireless perspective, the main focus is more towards the vRAN kind of a side of the business, to optimize it. From a fixed line perspective, I think if you think our focus is more towards intent-based networking. I think there are some use cases which aligns well, energy savings, which is a key from a sustainability, ESG perspective, which overlaps kind of it. But the implementation, again, will vary because it's a different domain overall out there. So, yeah, but there are other use cases also. I think if you start talking about, like NLP or an AI-assisted customer experience out there. So I think those will be like, it's more touching on the customer experience perspective, right? How can you take NLP as a prompt to experience or improve quote to order kind of things out there? So I think that kind of use cases will be quite aligned across the verticals out there.
Great, thanks very much. Should we move on to another question? Oh, over the top there.
Hello, this is a vendor perspective question. So after walking out of the POC purgatory, we have to walk into the RFP process hell. So is there a need to relook at procurement processes for AI itself?
I'll make an attempt at that one. I was laughing, sorry, it really isn't funny. But, we were speaking about needing to be business case driven rather than technology driven. And it's kind of ironic because if you get to talk to a CTO, if you're lucky enough to talk to them, you can pitch an AI use case and they get it pretty quickly. And as soon as you can show cost savings or improvements in NPS or whatever, they get it. Then they hand you over to procurement and then you get stuck in that process. So yeah, I think there is a need for a new model and maybe one that looks at, sharing the benefits potentially, revenue share or cost sharing models. And yes, going away from a long checklist of various different criteria, because the reality is probably most of the vendors can meet those, right? It's about how quickly they can do it and what's the commercial and delivery model that they have.
Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, I think the procurement model is changing and it'll be driven by opening the architecture. The role of the system integrator, I think, is going to probably for at least another decade stay with the big players that are so good at it with the global support systems they've put in place. But I think a lot of innovation is going to come in through those system integrators in partnership. And either small companies will sell to the SI and then they'll deal with procurement, or the small companies will go into procurement with the large operators. We're experiencing that right now, and it's straining the operators because they really don't know how to deal with it. They don't mean to put you through hell, but they do. So it's not really personal, but it does get frustrating, right, from time to time. Ray put up a slide earlier that said, like, where do you expect this to come from? Do you expect it to come internally? Do you expect it to come from our large vendors? Do you expect it to come from other? I would squarely say other. Right? It doesn't mean that the large players don't innovate. So please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. It's like they're incapable of doing it. Right? It's not that. It's just there's nothing like focusing your mind on a specific area, going all in, having total fear of failure because lights go out real quick after that. And the pace of that innovation, I think, will drive the industry. But it's naive to think that those small companies, ourselves included, by the way, are just going to displace and rip and replace hundreds of billions of dollars of value and stand in front of an operator between us and an OEM. So with that as a background, I think it defines a changed procurement model. And all of the operators are really struggling with that right now. They just don't know how to. They don't know whether they want to buy individual pieces and put it together themselves, or they want to get it all from one place. And so that's how I think about it. I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Can I just add to that? I think there's also a different approach what we have been exploring out there. So I think do RFI, RFP first and incubate the solution out there. So I think that takes you from a POC to a prototype to prove it. But you have done an RFI, RFP before getting in terms of it. And once you have a solution, then basically it's also about not trusting the vendor on the paper, but trying through the prototype and just saying, okay, if it makes sense, we'd like to take it into production.
Thank you. Any more comments on this one? Prashant? No, you okay? Okay, great. Do we have another question? Oh, Chris at the front here. Can you find the button there? It's just, it's just at the bottom there somewhere. There you go.
I think we're in. Thank you. Chris Lewis from Lewis Insight, and indeed the great telco debate. The question which occurs to me in this discussion is the assumption about where AI sits within the telco. But I'd love to hear from the panel who they deal with within the telcos. and who should be responsible for AI overall within the telcos? Because we keep saying it touches every part of the business, as Robert said, whether it's business coming from the business side or coming from the network side. So who are they currently dealing with in the telcos, and who should be responsible for AI within the telcos?
Thank you very much, Chris. Anybody want to tackle Chris's question there? Ray, you going there?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. I think if it's cost reduction, it's probably the CTO. And I think if it's revenue generating, it should be the CMO. And hopefully those two roles exist in telcos. Sometimes you've got an engineer running the marketing organization, but and if you don't divide it that way, the revenue side's never going to show up because the engineering side is just wired to reduce cost, and then if possible drive revenue. So I think you got to bifurcate it. We're much more focused on the cost saving performance process. We have no focus right now on the revenue generating side of AI.
Thanks, Ray.
So I'd agree with. Sorry.
Carry on, Andy.
I'd agree with Ray. Very often it is the CTO. Whether that's the right place for that to be made is another thing. Perhaps it should be Chief Digital Officer or someone else. But yes, pretty much CTO. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. We are struggling to find, because I think it touches the product side, it touches the IT side, it touches the data office also out there. So it can be a split between a CTO and a CIO, if you think from that perspective. I think that's the thing. But I think what we think is, I think there should be an AI center of excellence within the organization, which is basically a cross-functional team kind of aspect, which touches the product, the IT, the data office, and also the governance side, because with the governance, you get into you need from a risk and a legal aspect also to be part of that remit out there.
Thanks, Chetan. Prashant?
Just a quick one, yeah, and I agree, because just like any new technology, we are starting with CTOs. But what we have seen that sometime once we go the agreement with CTOs, they are interested in technology, they can see use case really work. But the next hurdle is that you need to convince the money side. And that's where sometime we hit in the hurdles. Then, so we need to show that, need to keep the cost of AI down. I mean, it's nothing for free. So if we go through a CTO, you agree, and then you say, I need like 10 more million or something to implement this use case, you will get stuck in the different hurdle. So we need to, as an industry, come together and see, we have convinced the CTO, we know that it works, it will provide this optimization, but how can we convert that in terms of the monetary values? That's a little bit of struggle, to be honest, we're still seeing.
Great. Thanks, everybody, for those comments. We've got the discussion well and truly going. We're going to have a short break now for coffee and pastries next door. Please continue the questions. Ask our panelists anything you want whilst having a coffee. Keep that arguments and thoughts going, because we're going to be coming back here in about 25 minutes to pick up on part 2 of this theme with Ray. So please thank all our guests and go and enjoy coffee. Thank you.